Subscribe to the MTL World at Malworld 1 YouTube channel. Novel, The Primordial Law. Volume 4, Xuansheng Dao Sect Twin Rice Sect. Chapter 51 306 Slaying the Two Wangs. 51st of Volume 4. Translator, Shadow Knight AK. Editor, Shadow Knight AK. Wang Shu's body movement technique was incredibly swift, like a nimble ape or a soaring bird. He leapt dozens of meters up the steep cliff face, leaving Li Wei unable to keep up. However, the 6 phoenix-winged moth emperors could fly and dive in pursuit, their speed matching his. In particular, 5th Phoenix, whose innate Dao technique seemed to be speed itself, moved so fast that only a blur remained. It was the first to catch up to Wang Shu, spreading its membranous wings and slashing at his neck. "You are seeking death." Wang Shu spun midair and swung his blade. The 100-character weapon battle blade sent 5th Phoenix crashing into the stone wall with a low scream, leaving it severely injured. That brief delay was all the other 5 phoenix-winged moth emperors needed. They caught up to Wang Shu and surrounded him. The 5 smaller ones let out shrill screams, either spitting golden crow flame, unleashing thunder and lightning, striking with sharp claws, or stealthily attacking from the shadows. Even with his profound cultivation, Wang Shu was overwhelmed, struggling to defend himself from all sides. Far away, Li Wei condensed to Ember Annihilation Finger Technique. Whoosh! He unleashed the finger technique from a distance. A golden-red beam of light streaked across dozens of meters, striking Wang Shu. Wang Shu was trapped in the encirclement of 5 phoenix-winged moth emperors when Li Wei shattered his Dao heart manifestation and protective spiritual qi with a single finger strike. The beam of light struck his chest, sending him flying backward. He crashed through rocks, tumbling down the mountainside. Li Wei was about to press his advantage when a sudden sense of danger surged through him. His hairs stood on end, and almost instinctively, he swung his sword horizontally to the right, unleashing a bright sword radiance. Wang Ji burst from a crack in the cliff face, conjuring 2 bone claw seals that tore through the sword radiance and lunged at Li Wei. He hadn't fled. He had been hiding here, waiting in ambush. After all, if Wang Shu were to meet an untimely end, Wang Ji would also be destroyed, body and soul. Their lives were intertwined. Bang! Bang! Psychic flame light whip, sword technique, body technique, leg technique. Li Wei unleashed every technique he knew, fighting desperately to defend himself. He and Wang Ji clashed repeatedly on the cliff face, each blow aimed to kill, their movements were lightning fast. Li Wei endured 3 claw strikes from Wang Ji. Protected by the blood handprint demonic armor, he managed to withstand the attacks, his body intact, though blood seeped from his skin and his internal organs ached with agony. Wang Ji, in turn, was struck by Li Wei's sword. The blade sliced through his chest, and blood gushed forth uncontrollably. The wound refused to clot. What terrified Wang Ji even more was that the dead spirit soul within him, wounded by the yellow dragon sword, was leaking soul energy from the wound, leaving him increasingly weak. He had never encountered such a bizarre sword. Yang Qingxi, holding the ghost banner, stood atop the Yin Ghost Commander's shoulder and joined the battle. Boom! The Yin Ghost Commander roared and swung its war spear, sending Wang Ji, who was locked in combat with Li Wei, crashing into the cliff face. Debris tumbled down continuously. Clang! Li Wei seized the opportunity and thrust his sword forward. The blade, a streak of yellow light, pierced through Wang Ji's chest, pinning his body firmly against the hollowed-out cliff face. "You. Who exactly are you?" Wang Ji's voice was a sharp, piercing scream. He felt the yellow dragon sword burning through his body like a red-hot iron rod, the excruciating pain searing his soul spirit, causing it to rapidly dissipate. Whoosh! A gust of cold wind swept past Li Wei. Yang Qingchen, her hair disheveled, appeared beside Li Wei, extending a slender, deathly pale hand. Her fingers pierced Wang Ji's skull as she chanted an incantation, activating a secret technique of the dead spirits. In the next moment, she extracted the dead spirit within Wang Ji's body, slowly absorbing its soul power through her nose and mouth with an expression of pure enjoyment. Dead spirits from the nether realm of the dead, especially those of the yin soul type, almost all cultivate the spirit-devouring technique. How could this be? The consciousness of the dead spirit within Wang Ji has been almost completely extinguished, its soul power is incredibly weak. How did he do this? Was it that sword? Yang Qingchen's eyes widened in surprise as she refined the soul power within her body, glancing at Li Wei's retreating back after he sheathed his sword. Cornered by Li Wei, Yang Qingchen, and the Yin Ghost Commander, Wang Shu knew escape was impossible. Fighting and retreating, he said in a low voice, "Li Wei, you're too foolish. Can't you see what's really happening? I am the divine son of the divine sect, yet those great true inheritances and elders stood by and watched me die. Think about why they would do that. They're waiting for you to kill me and commit an unforgivable sin, so they can devour you alive and seize your treasures. It's a classic case of the mantis stalking the cicada, unaware of the oriole behind." Wang Shu turned to the patrol guards of the Heavenly Principles Tianli Hall for help, but they quickly retreated, showing no intention of protecting him. The martial mystic cultivators of the patrol guard had been quite close to him in the past. At this moment, Wang Shu finally saw the true face of his master. If the old man hadn't given the order, why would the patrol guard act this way? Even disciples could be sacrificed for profit. Li Wei had long sensed this, but his heart remained unmoved. They had reached a point of no return, having forged a blood feud. Letting Wang Shu go now would be like releasing a tiger back into the mountains. Once Wang Shu fully condensed his Tao Lotus, even if Li Wei retreated to the southern Purity Nanqing Palace, he knew Wang Shu would eventually descend to the surface and unleash a vengeful rampage against everyone close to him. Wang Shu said, "Don't think the Southern Venerable will protect you. Those old geezers in the divine sector are all selfish, greedy, and ruthless. Their so-called master-disciple relationship is just a matter of your usefulness. There's no genuine affection there. Li Wei, spare my life. I swear I won't seek revenge." Li Wei wouldn't believe him. He deliberately raised his voice, feigning righteousness. "Wang Shu, don't think your master isn't saving you out of selfishness and greed. The Vice Hall Master is so wise, he, like us, has long seen through your wickedness, your slaughter of fellow disciples, your embezzlement of divine sect wealth. If you want to frame someone, you'll always find an excuse. Since you've lost your mind, there's nothing more to discuss. If you want to kill me, you'll pay a terrible price." 6 Bodhi seeds flew out from Wang Shu's ancestral field. Each Bodhi seed was inscribed with hundreds of scriptures, refined into spiritual artifacts. The 6 scriptures and 6 Bodhi seeds shared the same origin, forming a complete set of spiritual artifacts containing over 800 scriptures. If one could perfectly comprehend these scriptures and wield the power of the 6 Bodhi seeds to their utmost potential, they could theoretically unleash the power of an 8th grade 100-character artifact. However, controlling them was far more challenging than wielding a single 8th grade 100-character artifact. With Wang Shu's current cultivation level, he could only tap into a tiny fraction of their power. Yang Qingxi said, "This set of spiritual artifacts is incredibly precious, worth over 1,000,000 Yangquan coins. There's no way Wang Shu could have acquired them legitimately. He must have stolen them from a secret treasure vault. Should we try to capture him alive first? Don't even dream of it. Do you really think the Heavenly Principles Tianli Hall's patrol guard is just for show? Do you think they'd give you a chance to capture him alive? If we're going to do this, we'll do it thoroughly." Li Wei, the 6 phoenix-winged moth emperors, Yang Qingxi, Yang Qingchen, and the Yin Ghost Commander, 10 figures in total, surrounded Wang Shu, and even the 6 Bodhi seeds couldn't hold them off. Li Wei was resolute, refusing to dwell on the consequences. Unlike Yang Qingxi, he had no interest in forcing Wang Shu to reveal the location of a secret treasure vault. Only one thought filled his mind. Kill Wang Shu to eliminate future trouble. PFF'd. He flashed forward, his battle blade severing Wang Shu's right arm from behind. The spiritual artifact battle blade clattered to the ground. A fountain of blood gushed from Wang Shu's shoulder as he screamed in agony. No longer able to effectively control the 6 Bodhi seeds, he stumbled and fled. PFF'd. Yang Qingxi, controlling the Yin Ghost Commander, swung its war lance, bisecting Wang Shu at the waist. With a swoosh, she landed beside Wang Shu's corpse, her finger probing his ancestral field. The true treasures were hidden within the ancestral field. The ancestral field of a Tao Seed Realm martial mystic cultivator contained a vast innate world, but from the outside, it appeared only the size of an acupoint. Careful examination was required to find it. The innate world was like a bubble blown from the real world. There's nothing in his ancestral field. But his cosmic pouch. It's overflowing with cultivation resources, blood crystals, millennium essence herbs, spiritual artifacts, Yangquan coins. Yang Qingxi snatched Wang Shu's cosmic pouch and signaled Yang Qingchen to quickly collect his spiritual artifact battle blade and the 6 Bodhi seeds. At this moment, Li Wei had no thought of competing for resources. He stood with his sword drawn, facing the approaching patrol guard. Boom. 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 300 patrol guards, all 5 Seas Realm martial mystic cultivators, surrounded them. They wore white armor, rode fallen soul beast mounts, and wielded standard-issue spiritual artifact spears. The fallen soul beast mounts charged forward, shaking the ground as they surrounded Li Wei, Yang Qingxi, and Yang Qingchen. With average talent and decades of cultivation, most martial mystic cultivators could achieve 7 springs opening. With enough 5 Seas pills, a large number of 5 Seas Realm martial mystic cultivators could be cultivated. Thousand Guard Commander Yi Zhouzu, riding a 7-meter-long giant soul beast with a rooster's head and tiger's body, slowly emerged from the patrol guards. Gazing at Wang Shu's 2 severed halves on the ground, his face was as cold and grim as ice. He had never felt such deep sorrow and pain as he did today. He desperately wanted to save Wang Shu, but ultimately dared not disobey his master's orders. Whoosh! Yi Zhouzu, a great true inheritance disciple, released his Tao heart manifestation. It transformed into a dense white cloud of spiritual qi that descended upon Li Wei and the others, pinning them in place. This was the power of a great true inheritance disciple. In any province of the Lingxiao realm, they were among the most formidable cultivators. Shackle them and take them to the heavenly principles Tianli Hall, Yi Zhouzu ordered. Ha ha ha. The laughter of Xikong Jingyuan and Xikong Yanlin echoed from afar, growing closer. In an instant, the two figures appeared at the foot of Spirit Ridge Lingji Mountain, descending from the summit. Their forms resembled two spinning wheels, riding the wind and mist with a skill far surpassing Wang Shu's. Lord Commander, the murder of a divine son is a major case that should be handled by our Wither Flourish Kurong Hall, Xikong Jingyuan said. Yi Zhouzu sensed the fluctuations of Dao Lotus Qi emanating from Xikong Jingyuan and Xikong Yanlin. It was clear that these two fifth divine sons had made remarkable progress during their training in the nether realm of the dead, reaching the fourth heaven of the Dao Seed realm. Yi Zhouzu knew their intentions all too well. He clasped his hands in a respectful salute. Divine sons, the deceased was my junior brother. The heavenly principles Tianli Hall and the patrol guard will not let the killer escape justice. Please show us some leniency. Xikong Yanlin replied bluntly, if he was your junior brother, why did you hide and fail to save him? Xikong Jingyuan smiled gently. I heard Li Wei say that Wang Shu had killed many fellow disciples before his death. There must be other major cases involved. The Wither Flourish Kurong Hall will thoroughly investigate this matter. I'm truly sorry, but we cannot grant your request. Enforcing rewards and punishments is the duty of the Wither Flourish Kurong Hall. Xikong Jingyuan and Xikong Yanlin moved through the patrol guard, entering the central clearing. Their gazes fell upon the three figures pinned down by Yi Zhouzu's Dao Heart manifestation. Unlike Xikong Yanlin, who was openly scrutinizing Yang Qingxi and Yang Qingchen with eager eyes, Xikong Jingyuan maintained a slight smile while staring intently at the six strange insects and the ghost banner. Xikong Yanlin's eyes burned with fervent desire as he scanned Yang Qingxi and Yang Qingchen. Yi Zhouzu's voice grew grave. If I fail to capture the murderer, this 1,000 guard may not be able to return and report. That's your problem. Xikong Yanlin spread his arms wide, conjuring a demon wheel between his hands. He hurled it forward, where it spun at blinding speed, its wind-like force slicing through Yi Zhouzu's Dao Heart manifestation inch by inch, intent on seizing the prisoners by force. Boom. Yi Zhouzu grunted as he thrust his spear, shattering the demon wheel into a cloud of chilling mist. The 300 patrol guards raised their spears in unison, activating their armor. Above them, a battle formation materialized, dense with swirling scripture. In an instant, tension crackled between the two sides, the air thick with killing intent. Stop. A young voice, filled with authority, echoed from the sky. Everyone on the ground reeled from the force contained within the shout, their heads spinning and their bodies swaying as if struck by divine thunder. Whoosh. The massive form of the double-headed golden-winged eagle descended from the sky, carrying two figures on its back. Its wings stirred up a violent gale. Blank. End of chapter. Subscribe to the MTL World at Malworld 1 YouTube channel. Novel. The Primordial Law. Volume 4, Xuanhuan Dao Sect Twin Rice Sect. Chapter 52 307 Escape from Death. 52nd of Volume 4. Translator. Shadow Knight AK. Editor. Shadow Knight AK. Changji Daozi stood tall on the back of a golden eagle, his azure robes billowing like clouds. His handsome features were refined and gentle, and his gaze swept across the scene. All 300 patrol guards immediately suppressed their spiritual qi, dismounted their steeds, and knelt on one knee. Greetings, first senior brother. Yi Zhouzu, Xikong Jinyuan, and Xikong Yanlin quickly bowed in respect. The first divine son was not only a divine son but also the first commander of the divine sect, the leader of the younger generation of disciples. His authority and prestige were so great that even most elders had to obey his commands. Changji Daozi sighed. One of you represents the patrol guards of the heavenly principles Tianli Hall, responsible for order and discipline, for uncovering spies and traitors. The other represents the withered flourish Kurong Hall, the divine sect's enforcers. Over such a minor matter, you've already started fighting. Yi Zhouzu, Xikong Jingyuan, and Xikong Yanlin all knew that Changji Daozi was the second disciple of the Hall Master of the Spirit Valley, Lingu Hall, and had a special relationship with Venerable Nan. They assumed he had come to protect Li Wei, and their hearts trembled with unease. They dared not speak. Changji Daozi looked at the blood-soaked ground, his gaze settling on Wang Shu's corpse. While I admire Venerable Nan's talent and brilliance and consider her my role model, I will never show favoritism. Wrong is wrong. Anyone who breaks the rules must pay the price. The law is rooted in human sentiment, in reason in the human heart. You each cling to your own version of events, yet both have valid points. Should we hand this matter over to the patrol guard or the withered flourish Kurong Hall? Let's handle it this way. Yi Zhouzu, your junior brother was killed. As his senior brother, avenging him is your sacred duty. Xikong Jinyuan, Xikong Yanlin, I'm entrusting Yang Qingxi to you. You must thoroughly investigate this matter. Yi Zhouzu, Xikong Jinyuan, and Xikong Yanlin were stunned, then inwardly delighted. They couldn't help but marvel at the first divine son's brilliance. With a few deft words, he had effortlessly resolved the conflict, ensuring both sides gained something and saved face. Eldest senior brother, your wisdom is truly divine. The three chorused. Li Wei stared at the first divine son, who had repeatedly promised Yao Qingshan to help and protect him. His eyes were filled with disbelief. When Yao Qingshan left, she had even told Li Wei to seek his help if he ever faced an insurmountable danger. Li Wei had never considered asking Changji Daozi for help, but he never imagined the man would turn against him, seeking his death. Why? What had he done to offend him? Changji Daozi noticed Li Wei's gaze and met his eyes, a surge of spiritual power radiating from his gaze. Li Wei, do you know your crime? His spiritual power was too strong, far more terrifying than Yi Zhouzu's Dao heart manifestation. It struck directly at Li Wei's spirit and soul spirit. An ordinary Dao Seed Realm martial mystic cultivator would have been forced to kneel instantly. Li Wei was only at the 5 Seas realm, and hadn't yet cultivated a soul spirit. One had to reach the Dao Seed realm, construct a soul bridge, and integrate a portion of their soul spirit into their Dao seed to complete Seed Dao, before slowly nourishing and strengthening their soul spirit. Whoosh! In the spirit realm, 3 spiritual power stars spun rapidly, releasing layers of spiritual light shields to block the spiritual power emanating from Changji Daozi's gaze. Li Wei struggled to endure, his eyes remaining sharp and bright. He didn't bother explaining, as it would have been pointless. He said, I became Venerable Nan's eldest disciple only 3 days ago. If I die in 3 days, can Venerable Nan afford to lose face? Yi Zhouzu, do you dare to kill me? If Venerable Nan wants you dead, will your master protect you? You'll just be the next Wang Shu. Yi Zhouzu gripped his spear, battle intent and killing intent swirling around him. But Li Wei's words sent a chill through his heart. He hesitated. Could it be that I, too, am just a pawn of my master? He wondered. Sikong Jingyuan chuckled. Yi Zhouzu, you fear Venerable Nan, but we brothers aren't afraid. Breaking the rules and committing a crime deserves the death penalty. If the divine sect doesn't uphold the law equally, how can it ever rule the world? With the Hall Master parents of the Withered Flourish Hall backing them, Sikong Jingyuan and Sikong Yanlin were far bolder than Yi Zhouzu. You don't think my only support is master, do you? Li Wei produced the Azure Jade Formation talisman and Shanjing had given him, holding it between 2 fingers. I can control the entire Southern Purity Nanqing Palace's formation because of this talisman, bestowed by the Hall Master. Haven't you wondered why someone like the Hall Master values me so much? If you act rashly without understanding the reason, aren't you truly courting death? Privately, the Azure Jade Formation talisman was worthless. No one would fear Li Wei because of it, they would simply kill him to silence him. But in public, it was as good as a decree from the Hall Master herself. Elder Shu gasped, no wonder you mastered the first layer of the 6-fold burning karma technique so quickly. The Hall Master must have taught you long ago. Changji Daozi, being discerning, recognized the Azure Jade Formation talisman as indeed belonging to his master. He fell into deep thought. Sikong Jingyuan and Sikong Yanlin had calmed down considerably. Having just returned from the nether realm of the dead, they were unaware of Li Wei's true origins. They could easily dismiss Venerable Nan's disciple. But someone personally granted a formation talisman by the Hall Master of the Spirit Valley, Lingu Hall demanded caution. In other words, Li Wei's right to freely enter and exit the Southern Purity Nanqing Palace was at the Hall Master's behest. Could it be that Venerable Nan's acceptance of Li Wei as a disciple was also the Hall Master's will? Most importantly, even if they seized all of Li Wei's treasures, they would eventually have to return them to the Hall Master. They couldn't keep them. Seeing that he had cowed the crowd, Li Wei whispered to Yang Qingxi, let's go. Once they returned to the Southern Purity Nanqing Palace, the formation art there would be enough to fend off their pursuers. If that failed, they could retreat into the formation protecting the golden rice. The 3 of them retreated cautiously, weaving through the patrol guards with their hearts pounding. If their enemies took a desperate gamble and attacked without regard for the consequences, they would be utterly annihilated. Zhu Tianshu stood outside the Heavenly Principal's Tianli Hall, deep in thought. Li Wei's earlier shout had put him in a very passive position. Logically, as a master, avenging his disciple should be beyond reproach. But why hadn't he intervened to save his disciple in the first place? Zhu Tianshu wasn't afraid of criticism, what he feared was Shanjing seizing this opportunity. For now, Zhu Tianshu could only continue pretending to be searching for Tang Wanzhou, remaining ignorant of the situation in the mortal realm lair. What a cunning young whelp. It seems we can't let him live. If he grows stronger, Yao Qingshan will only become more formidable, like a tiger with wings. Zhu Tianshu's intent, spanning dozens of miles, transmitted a voice to Yi Zhouzu, the law doesn't punish the masses. Have the patrol guards suppress them. After they're killed, Sikong Jingyuan and Sikong Yanlin will undoubtedly try to take a share. If we can drag those 2 into this, the waters will become muddied. Yi Zhouzu understood his master's meaning. His lips moved, and his voice merged with strands of spiritual qi, transmitting a message to the 300 patrol guards. Li Wei and his companions hadn't yet escaped the patrol guards' battle formation when they intercepted Yi Zhouzu's message with their spiritual power. Their hearts sank, and they shouted, "Run!" Boom! Li Wei's spiritual power transformed into a vast wave of spiritual light shockwaves, sending over a dozen patrol guards flying backward. They had to escape the battle formation as quickly as possible. Ahead, 10 spears thrust forward in unison, forming a miniature formation. The combined power of the 10 patrol guards twisted together, coalescing into a colossal phantom of a god of war that slammed its fist toward Li Wei. The smallest battle formation for the patrol guards was a 10-man formation. There were also 20-man formations, 30-man formations, and 100-man formations. The more people in a formation, the more powerful it became. Li Wei naturally wasn't afraid of a mere 10-man formation. He used his spiritual power whip to shatter the phantom of a god of war. He didn't dare linger. He activated Yellow Dragon ascending to heaven, breaking free from the patrol guard's formation area and appearing several dozen feet above its edge. At this moment, a 100-man formation successfully took shape. A 100-yard diameter formation plate spun above their heads. From the center of the formation, a 7th grade 100-character artifact level Great Seal soared forth, its full power unleashed. Boom! The Great Seal crashed into the ground, creating a massive crater. The soil around the crater showed signs of melting, and all vegetation within a 30-yard radius turned to ash. Li Wei used his movement technique to dodge the initial impact, but the seal's shockwave sent him flying. He tumbled across the ground several times before continuing his escape toward the southern Purity Nanqing Palace. As long as Yi Zhouzu didn't join the pursuit, these patrol guards, with their limited speed and few experts, posed no real threat. Li Wei was confident he could escape back to the palace. Boom! 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 A massive wave of patrol guards, riding dead soul spirit beasts, surged after Li Wei like a tide. Changji Daozi, perched atop the two-headed golden-winged eagle, had remained silent since Li Wei produced the Azure Jade Formation talisman. He knew he had miscalculated today, and getting involved further would make it impossible to explain himself to his master. He fell into deep reflection, wondering why he had made such a mistake. The Tianjia Heavenly Heart Temple was the most prominent Taoist temple in Fu Prefecture, boasting a thriving incense trade and a large number of disciples. It was the 3rd month of spring, with lush green leaves adorning the branches and melodious bird songs filling the air. Yao Qingshan, veiled and with a red beauty mark between her eyebrows, sat on a meditation cushion. She exuded an aura of solemn dignity and mysterious beauty as she listened to reports from her people stationed at headquarters, relaying information about Spirit Ridge Lingjit Mountain. Every 15 minutes, new intelligence reached the surface. The Yang clan hasn't shown themselves. She asked softly. The elder kneeling outside the door shook his head. No. They're holding their cards close. Then we can ignore the Yang clan. We never factored them into our plans anyway. Yao Qingshan had predicted that Li Wei would inevitably go to the 4th Divine Son's residence to rescue someone. She also knew Changji Daozi's jealous nature. The more she showed concern for Li Wei and praised him, the less likely Changji Daozi would be to protect him. Therefore, she had deliberately left headquarters, allowing events to unfold as she had foreseen. Li Wei's unique status and the numerous treasures he possessed had made him a target within the divine sect. Some people wanted him dead. Others wanted the strange insect and the ghost banner. If they didn't seize this opportunity to resolve these issues in advance, Li Wei would inevitably meet an untimely end. To solve this problem, Palace Master An would have to intervene. Beyond her expectations, Li Wei actually struck 3 days later, killing Wang Ji and Wang Shu. His strength far exceeded her predictions, and the incident caused a much greater uproar. Even more shocking was that Changji Daozi not only failed to come to Li Wei's aid but even tried to take advantage of the situation to kill him. If he had maintained his integrity and unwavering righteousness, Yao Qingshan might have held him in higher regard. But when Li Wei produced the Azure Jade Formation talisman, the 1st Divine Son actually retreated. Yao Qingshan said, Li Wei is too audacious. He dares to kill a Divine Son. He needs to suffer some consequences. Tell Shan Zi not to intervene unless Li Wei's life is in danger. Also, send Palace Master An a report on what happened at headquarters. Sikong Jingyuan and Sikong Yanlin followed behind the patrol guard, watching Li Wei and the 2 Yang sisters draw closer to the southern Purity Nanqing Palace. Sikong Yanlin was deeply resentful. We've already made enemies of them today. Letting them go now will only invite future retaliation. Sikong Jingyuan remained calm. Even Yi Zhouzu hasn't dared to act rashly, and the 1st Divine Son has remained silent. This proves the Azure Jade Formation talisman Li Wei holds is genuine. Our actions earlier were merely official duties as martial mystic cultivators of the withered flourish Karong Hall. That doesn't constitute a fatal offense. Acting against them now would leave us with no room for maneuver. Sikong Yanlin sighed. What a pity. It was such a perfect opportunity. A direct attack wouldn't have been a good opportunity, Sikong Jingyuan countered. Sikong Yanlin asked, what do you mean? They won't stay at headquarters cultivating forever. They'll eventually have to leave to carry out missions. Striking in secret would avoid many complications. Sikong Jingyuan added, first, we need to investigate. Find out who this Li Wei truly is, his relationship with Palace Master N, and why he's in possession of so many treasures. Cutting through the enemy lines, leaving a trail of patrol guard corpses in their wake, Li Wei, Yang Qingxi, and Yang Qingchen charged into the southern Purity Nanqing Palace's formation barrier. Li Wei gasped like a bellows, his entire body drenched in blood. The blood handprint demon armor had been shattered, its scriptures scattered and blood mist dissipated. Several spear wounds pierced his flesh. Yet he didn't collapse to rest. Instead, he channeled his spiritual power, pouring every ounce of his strength into activating the southern Purity Nanqing Palace's grand formation. At that moment, Li Wei finally let out a triumphant laugh. Yi Zhouzu, you were fooled by me. The greatest mistake in this world is doing something halfway and then hesitating. Not only does you fail to achieve your goal, but you also create enemies. He directed those words at the first divine son as well. Blank. End of chapter. Subscribe to the MTL World at Malworld 1 YouTube channel. Novel. The Primordial Law. Volume 4, Xuanhuan Dao Sect Twin Rice Sect. Chapter 53 308 Space Teleportation Formation. 53rd of Volume 4. Translator, Shadow Knight AK. Editor, Shadow Knight AK. The patrol guard retreated like a receding tide. Yi Zhouzu, who hadn't even dared to personally confront Li Wei, how could he possibly attack the southern Purity Nanqing Palace? Ultimately, Wang Shu's death had planted a thorn in his heart. From now on, he could never again serve Zhu Tianshu loyally. The world had lost a loyal and righteous senior brother, and gained a heretical sect expert who was now two-faced, self-preserving, and selfish. The principle of, as the superior acts, so will the inferior, applied here, as the legacy of betrayal passed down through generations. Outside the southern Purity Nanqing Palace, the area was deserted. Only a few Twin Rice sect disciples peeked out from afar, hoping to catch the excitement, but they had arrived too late. Having heard what had transpired earlier, these young disciples now regarded the southern Purity Nanqing Palace with even greater awe. In the heretical sect, only the strong commanded respect and reverence. To have slain the fourth divine son and then escaped from the clutches of the first divine son, the patrol guard, and the fifth divine son, it sounded like a fantastical tale, cloaking Venerable Nan's eldest disciple in an aura of mystery and power. Exhausted in body and spirit, Li Wei returned to the main hall of the southern Purity Nanqing Palace. He let out a long sigh, tossed the yellow dragon sword onto the ground, and slumped against the wall. The pain and weakness that had been suppressed during the battle now surged over him. With the pressure of life and death lifted, his vision blurred, and he longed only to collapse into sleep. Yang Qingxi was even more severely wounded. Her green robe was soaked in blood, her veil long since lost, and her body covered in wounds. Her essence, qi, and spirit seemed completely depleted. She sat directly beside Li Wei, closed her eyes, and leaned against the wall, taking deep, ragged breaths. After a long moment, they both let out soft chuckles at the same time. No matter how brutal, perilous, and tortuous the process had been, they had survived yet again, and this time, they had emerged victorious. The person they had set out to save was saved. The person they had set out to kill was dead. Yang Qingxi opened her eyes, turned her head, and stared directly at Li Wei beside her. Li Wei, sensing her gaze, bit his tongue to stay awake, his voice guarded. Miss Yang, are you planning to take this opportunity to eliminate me and then announce that my injuries were fatal? Yang Qingxi continued to stare at him, her voice filled with emotion. 2 years ago, in my eyes, you were just a surging spring realm upstart from some backwater village. You lacked the extraordinary appearance of a pure immortal physique and the formidable background of a powerful family. At that time, I was already the leader of the younger generation of the Sui sect. Comparing you to me was like comparing a mud-dwelling tadpole to a phoenix soaring through the heavens. In just 2 short years, everything has changed. Here we are, sitting side by side against this wall. No matter how proud I may be, I can no longer look down on you. Li Wei recalled his arrival in this world and asked, to be honest, during those few meetings in Li Prefecture, I couldn't tell when I was seeing you and when I was seeing Yang Qingchen. Why bother distinguishing so clearly? Haven't we already settled our grievances? Yang Qingxi replied. This campaign against Wang Shu had changed Li Wei's perception of Yang Qingxi. From beginning to end, her resolve had remained unwavering. She hadn't wavered even when Wang Shu broke through to a higher realm, putting them at a disadvantage and in danger. If it were anyone else, they would have long since fled to save themselves. Li Wei felt a weight settle on his shoulder. Yang Qingxi's head had leaned against him. What are you doing? He asked. Don't move. Just let me lean for a moment. After a long silence, Yang Qingxi closed her eyes again and said, actually, we're a better match. Why don't we just make the best of it? Your ancestral field is ruined, and Zuoqiu Hongting has returned from the Calamity Crossing Temple with her horizons broadened. With her innate talent as the young emperor, why would she still be interested in you? Zuoqiu Kangwu's attempt to kill you might not have been his own doing, it could have been orchestrated by a high-ranking figure in the Zuoqiu clan, clearing obstacles for the young emperor. You're trying to sow discord. Be careful, when my fiancé returns and hears about the rumors between us, she'll beat you up first. Li Wei knew Yang Qingxi was not just ruthless but also highly calculating and exceptionally intelligent. He couldn't tell how much truth lay in her words. So he pressed on, Miss Yang, why did you wanted to kill Wang Shu? Yang Qingxi's tightly closed eyes snapped open. Li Wei's question had clearly caught her off guard. You've only been at headquarters for a year, Miss Yang, and you've spent most of that time in seclusion. How could you know about Wang Shu opening the secret treasure vault of an underground immortal mansion? It's such a hidden secret, Wang Shu wouldn't have let anyone else know. The Sui sect has 7 major clans. The Yang clan ranks first, followed by the Sheng clan, then the Wang clan, Shui clan, and 5 others. The Sheng clan's ancestor is a holy spiritual master and the leading elder of the Twin Rice sect in the Southern Territory. The Yang clan has 2 immortal realm cultivators, Yang Shenjing, your clan's ancestor and the strongest cultivator in Li Prefecture, and your grandfather, Yang Yin. The ancestors of the Sui sect's 7 major clans were originally retainers and servants of the Zhu Li tribe. Over 1,000 years, they rapidly grew in power, eventually surpassing even the main branches of the ancient myriad clans. How did they achieve this? This period of growth seems to coincide perfectly with the rise of the divine sect. If I'm not mistaken, the Sui sect's 7 major clans were long ago subjugated by the divine sect. The divine sect seeks to exploit the Sui sect's advantage in water transport and use the banner of the declining Zhu Li tribe, one of the ancient myriad clans, to quietly spread its influence throughout the world. Simultaneously, under the guise of human trafficking, they can secretly transport and plant ricefolk in various prefectures. The Sui sect is ostensibly a sect, with Yang Shenjing's cultivation surpassing everyone else. Yet the 7 major clans still hold sway within the sect. Most of the clan heads are still only at the Dao Seed realm. Why? Each of the 7 major clans must have a powerful backer, right? Behind the Wang clan stands the Vice Palace Master of the Heavenly Principles Tianli Hall. Your actions against Wang Shu are essentially part of the Yang clan's plan to dismantle the Wang clan and seize complete control of the Sui sect. After all, if Wang Shu were to mature, he would inevitably take charge of the Wang clan within the Sui sect, thus becoming a check on your Yang clan. With someone to keep you in check, the Yang clan can't act as they please, and it becomes difficult to hoard wealth and resources. The Yang clan shows no fear of such a prominent figure as the Heavenly Principles Tianli Hall's Vice Palace Master. This suggests that Yang Shenjing himself holds a high position, at least the Vice Palace Master of the Heaven Valley Tianjia Hall, if not the Hall Master himself. Miss Yang, in your eyes, am I just a naive young man to be exploited? Yang Qingxi remained resting her head on Li Wei's shoulder, her bright eyes lost in thought. I've already told you, I only learned I was a Ren Dao a year ago. You should ask your master, Venerable Nan, or the Hall Master of the Spirit Valley, Lingu Hall, who has always held you in high regard. Yang Qingchen entered the room, glanced at the 2 of them, and said, the Yang clan has arrived. You should go meet them yourself. Yang Qingxi struggled to sit up, her delicate frame trembling as she walked out. Li Wei had already retracted the ghost banner. Curiosity piqued, he followed her to the doorway and watched from a distance. The Yang clan delegation consisted of 2 white-haired elders, followed by Yi Nanfeng, Yi Baifeng, Zuo Sheng, Yang Yun, and the Dao Seed Realm martial mystic cultivators and core disciples who had previously followed Wang Shu. It was a formidable group. Without a doubt, the Yang clan had seized this opportunity to absorb Wang Shu's forces into their ranks. As they were about to leave, Li Wei called out, Yang Qingxi, we haven't divided the loot yet. Yang Qingxi exchanged a few words with the 2 elders before returning to the Southern Purity Nanqing Palace. She retrieved Wang Shu's boundary pouch and divided the spoils with Li Wei on a 3-to-7 split. Li Wei's primary goal had been to save someone, and now that he was severely injured, he didn't quibble over the loot. Wang Shu's total wealth, including 6 Bodhi seeds, was worth nearly 2 million Yangquan coins. Li Wei only took a millennial essence herb, a large quantity of Yangquan coins, and some blood crystals. Li Wei remarked, 2 million Yongquan coins is indeed a fortune only a Dao Seed Realm 7th layer cultivator or higher could amass. But aside from the 6 Bodhi seeds, the rest of this doesn't seem to be from a secret treasure vault. Don't worry, I'll find clues to the secret treasure vault. Once I do, we'll go together to claim it. I won't keep it all for myself, Yang Qingxi said with a faint smile. Li Wei found it strange that she expected him to trust her. Then shouldn't you pay back the 5 million Yongquan coins you owe me? Yang Qingxi quickly retreated, escaping the southern purity Nanqing palace. We're both so badly injured. Let's not fight anymore. Once we find that secret treasure vault, the wealth inside might be worth far more than 5 million Yongquan coins. Li Wei, weakened by his injuries, replied, once my wounds heal, we'll settle this properly. You can't just brush off the debt so easily. Yang Qingxi didn't take Li Wei's threat seriously. At worst, she figured, she'd get beaten up or have a 6 desires talisman planted on her. Neither seemed particularly frightening when it came to Li Wei. In fact, she'd secretly wondered what would have happened if another man had beaten her or planted a 6 desires talisman on her. She was certain she would have done everything in her power to tear him to shreds and grind his bones to dust. Why did she feel no hatred toward Li Wei, even though he had done both of those things to her? Think about my earlier proposal again, Yang Qingxi said, if my cultivation rapidly advances while you remain stagnant, my standards might rise, and you'll lose your chance. Li Wei shook his head gently and returned to the main hall of the Southern Purity Nanqing Palace. What Yang Qingxi said is realistic, but it's also the truth. A woman like Zhuoqiu Hongting, even at the same cultivation level, I wouldn't dare claim I could defeat her. With the dragon seed and immortality pill, she'll soon become a giant of the immortal realm. What will you do then? Tang Wanzhou sat above the hall, his ponytail neatly tied, his powerful aura fully restored. Li Wei felt a headache coming on. Young lord, why did you come out? Weren't we supposed to stay within the formation? Do you even know how many eyes are watching the Southern Purity Nanqing Palace right now? I discovered something. Do you want to take a look? Tang Wanzhou asked. Li Wei and Tang Wanzhou entered the formation's light curtain and arrived at the ruins of the Buddhist temple. The entire formation area spanned dozens of acres, shrouded in thick blood mist where not a blade of grass could grow. In one corner of the ruins stood a blood pool, over 2 meters long and wide. The blood within remained liquid, neither dried nor clotted. Tang Wanzhou bypassed the blood pool, leading Li Wei into the Buddhist hall, which was now reduced to 2 crumbling walls. The ground was covered with numerous fine grooves filled with a thick, red liquid. Li Wei knelt down, touching the liquid with his finger. His fingertip turned crimson, carrying a strong metallic scent. Incredible blood. After all these years, it hasn't dried up. This reminded him of the golden crow's blood on the bronze ship. It's the corpse blood of an ancient immortal giant beast. Its energy is naturally potent, Tang Wanzhou explained. Yingzhou once flourished during a glorious era when countless ancient immortal giant beasts coexisted with ancient immortal giants, ruling over this vast, boundless territory. However, the Nether Realm eventually enveloped all of Yingzhou, forcing the ancient immortals to depart and gradually vanish. Yet, in certain fallen immortal realms, one could still find the remains of ancient immortal giant beasts from ancient times. Such remains were priceless treasures. Even a small amount of their corpse blood could help aberrant humanoids undergo metamorphosis, granting them immense power. Of course, this corpse blood had long lost its immortal power, making it incomparable to true immortal blood. Tang Wanzhou had already cleared the Buddhist hall, revealing the full extent of the grooved patterns. Li Wei quickly saw through the deception. This is a formation. It's a space teleportation formation. Tang Wanzhou had been studying the Tao of space for over a decade. Within this formation, he detected unusual spatial fluctuations. I am referring to Tang Wanzhou as he, because she is currently posing as a man. Space teleportation formations were incredibly rare, even more difficult to construct than any other formation. Not even Holy Spiritual Master could fully comprehend them. Even with Tang Wanzhou's vast experience, this was his first encounter with one. Li Wei asked, what is young lord's purpose in bringing me here? You are a spiritual master. Tang Wanzhou walked toward the center of the formation. Li Wei replied, I am a spiritual master, but my understanding of formations probably doesn't compare to yours, young lord. Your spiritual, psychic power can activate the formation, Tang Wanzhou said. Li Wei countered, we have no idea where this formation leads. The uncertainty and danger are too great. Tang Wanzhou replied, this teleportation formation was built within the Buddhist temple. It's likely a crucial transit hub from the ancient Bhagavata sect era. It couldn't possibly connect to the outside world, as the underground immortal mansion's barrier makes it extremely difficult for spatial power to penetrate. It's highly probable that this formation is meant for teleportation between 2 locations within the underground immortal mansion. Look at this broken jade steel. At the center of the formation, stood a half-broken jade stele bearing two strange ancient characters. These are characters from the ancient Bhagavata sect, called Sacred Heart, she said. I believe this is a space teleportation formation leading to the Sacred Heart layer. Young Lord, you're not planning to activate the formation and go to the Sacred Heart layer, are you? Li Wei thought she had gone mad and warned the two ancestors of Twin Rice sector in the Sacred Heart layer. Tang Wanzhou countered, are you so sure the ancestors of Twin Rice sector still in the Sacred Heart layer? What if they were drawn to the surface by the transcendent powers of the Zhuoqiu clan and the Snow Sword Tang court? Blank. End of chapter. Subscribe to the MTL World at Melworld 1 YouTube channel. Novel, The Primordial Law. Volume 4, Xuansheng Dao Sect Twin Rice Sect. Chapter 54 309 and Shanjing Returns. 54th of Volume 4. Translator, Shadow Knight AK. Editor, Shadow Knight AK. Even if they're still in the Sacred Heart layer, she continued, why would they let me infiltrate headquarters? Aren't they afraid of exposing the root? Could it be that something more important is holding them back in the Sacred Heart layer? Li Wei knew Tang Wanzhou wanted to go to the Sacred Heart layer for two reasons. First, to uncover the truth behind corpse cultivation rice, a matter of universal benefit. Second, and more likely, to obtain the Book of Radiant Stars, mentioned in the murals, hoping to dispel the Netherworld and expand the Lingxiao realm. Li Wei admired her courage and determination, but as a mere 5C's realm martial mystic cultivator, he couldn't join her on such a reckless venture. I'm not asking you to risk your life with me, Tang Wanzhou said, just teleport me there. Li Wei breathed a silent sigh of relief, a look of, that's more like it, crossing his face. Cultivation at a higher level truly made a difference, no restrictions, no fear of venturing into any place. But we'll have to wait until I've recovered from my injuries. Tang Wanzhou continued, see those grooves in the formations. They're for holding high-grade blood crystals, which provide energy to the formation. I only have 3. Could you buy 5 more for me? Blood crystals are one of the most important minerals in the cultivation world. They are rich in blood qi and have a wide range of uses, healing injuries, cultivating the physical body, alchemy, nurturing insects, setting up formations, crafting talismans, and more. Low-grade blood crystals typically cost 1,000 Yongquan coins each. Mid-grade blood crystals cost 10,000 Yongquan coins each and possess the ability to store spiritual qi. When placed in a heavenly law earth spring, they can automatically absorb spiritual qi. High-grade blood crystals cost 100,000 Yongquan coins each and are treasures for Dao Seed Realm martial mystic cultivators seeking to cultivate their physical bodies. They inherently contain pure spiritual qi. When nourished in a heavenly law earth spring, they replenish their spiritual qi reserves faster than mid-grade blood crystals and can store more. Using high-grade blood crystals to power a formation ensures the most stable performance. As for supreme-grade blood crystals, they are even rarer, sought after even by immortal realm giants. In addition to their physical cultivation benefits, legends claim they contain vast amounts of life force, capable of extending one's lifespan. Li Wei extended a hand, requesting 5 high-grade blood crystals. That's 500,000 Yongquan coins. Who carries that many Yongquan coins around for no reason? You, a divine hidden one from the Zhuli hidden sect, don't even have 500,000 Yongquan coins. Just cover it for me first, and I'll pay you back later, Tang Wanzhou said. Li Wei replied, you must have some Dao lotus or Dao fruit, right? No. I left them on the surface before coming in, Tang Wanzhou said. Li Wei's mind stirred. Suddenly, he remembered something and asked, how many drops of spring liquid can an immortal realm giant condense in a day? Tang Wanzhou glared at him, then laughed in exasperation. Here she was, the young lord of the Northern Territory, renowned throughout the world and surpassing her peers. Now she was reduced to condensing spring liquid to make money. If word got out, wouldn't her reputation be ruined? Li Wei quickly explained, young lord, you've always been generous, spending lavishly. I shouldn't be haggling with you over 500,000 Yongquan coins. But raising those 7 strange insects is incredibly expensive, and psychic power cultivation is an endless expense. Tang Wanzhou stared at him for a moment, then suddenly realized, you're afraid to buy a large quantity of spring liquid from the Twin Rice sect, aren't you? Li Wei immediately denied it. No, not at all. Tang Wanzhou didn't want to waste any more words with Li Wei. He felt that while encountering him had cost him a fortune, it had at least averted disaster. He asked, how much spring liquid do you need? 50,000 Yongquan coins. You'll need to sell at least 5,000 drops of spring liquid, Li Wei replied. Tang Wanzhou frowned slightly, utterly speechless, I'll give you 10,000 drops every month. A giant of the immortal realm is truly different. You cultivate so much faster than Dao Seed Realm martial mystic cultivators. You don't even need to risk your life. Just selling spring liquid alone, you can earn over 1 million Yongquan coins a year, Li Wei marveled. At his current rate of spiritual qi refinement, with the help of the Fusong divine tree and the cocoon of time, he could refine 10,000 units of spiritual qi in a single month. Moreover, the 30,000 units of spiritual qi he had added to his 7th C would take him 3 months to refine on their own. Tang Wanzhou's contribution would perfectly supplement this, ensuring his cultivation wouldn't be delayed. Young lord, you absolutely must not leave this place again, Li Wei cautioned as he prepared to leave. With such a major incident having occurred at headquarters, there was no telling when Shencang and Yao Qingshan would return. If the 3 female immortal realm giants were to cross paths, even with Li Wei's current cultivation, he wouldn't stand a chance, not even if he reached the immortal realm himself. Li Wei took Qi Xiao and Tuoba Buchuo out of the insect pouch and carefully carried them one by one to the bed. The insect pouch could indeed hold people, but it was also quite dangerous. If the pouch were to break during a fight, even someone with high cultivation could be killed by the spatial power within. Unless absolutely necessary, it was never used to contain living beings. Li Wei possessed the Dao ancestors Tai Chi fish and the evil camel bell. In a dire situation, he could use them to store little 7. Boom. Boom. Li Wei held a blood crystal in each hand, placing them on Qi Xiao and Tuoba Buchuo's foreheads and crushing them. Immediately, a massive surge of blood qi erupted, drawn by his spiritual power and flooding into their emaciated bodies. As the blood qi seeped in, their withered frames, like deflated balloons, slowly began to inflate. Half an hour later, the blood qi from both blood crystals had completely absorbed. Their condition had improved slightly, but they were still far from recovered. Li Wei dared not infuse more blood qi, it had to be done gradually. Qi Xiao and Tuoba Buchuo fell into a deep sleep. After enduring severe physical and mental trauma for so long, they could finally rest peacefully. Li Wei could no longer hold himself up. He leaned against the doorframe and slowly sat down outside, circulating his spiritual qi to heal his own injuries. 5 days passed in a row. Besides meditating to heal his own injuries, Li Wei used 2 blood crystals each day to help Qi Xiao and Tuoba Buchuo recover their blood qi. Gradually, externally, the 2 men appeared to have fully recovered, except for the missing arms. But how could the blood qi contained in high-grade blood crystals replenish the blood lost by Dao Seed Realm martial mystic cultivators? They would need prolonged recuperation to truly recover. Upon waking, the 2 immediately rose from their beds and knelt to kowtow to Li Wei, but he quickly helped them up. Please, don't. Old Qi, I feel deeply ashamed. Li Wei said. Qi Xiao waved his single arm, forcing a bitter smile, it's my own fault. I was too arrogant, too reckless. It was probably my inflated ego after breaking through to the Dao Seed Realm that brought this calamity upon me. Wang Shu is dead now. Your revenge has been avenged, Li Wei said. Qi Xiao and Tuoba Buchuo were deeply moved, their gratitude beyond words. They knew Wang Shu was the 4th divine son of the Twin Rice sect. To kill a divine son at their headquarters and walk away unscathed. They didn't know how Li Wei had done it, but their admiration was boundless. He could even thrive in a heretical sect. Ignoring Li Wei's protests, the 2 men bowed again. Brother Wei, we will obey your every command, even if it means facing death 1,000 times over. Li Wei finally managed to help them stand up. He retrieved the cold jade box containing the 2 arms from his boundary pouch. The arms, vitality, meridian veins, and acupoints are all intact. They should be able to be reattached. Li Songolin and Yinju's situation was entirely different. Their severed limbs had been damaged during the battle. Brother Wei, I'll never forget your kindness. Tuoba Buchuo shook his head gently, but to reattach severed limbs, we would need at least a great immortal to intervene. Those figures have already broken free from multiple immortality shackles. They can see every minute detail within the human body and possess a unique understanding of life. They can use extraordinary techniques to reconnect meridian veins and meridians. Qi Xiao added, if there's still some hope outside, here at headquarters. Aren't our lives hanging by a thread? Tuoba Buchuo pondered for a moment. Brother Wei, we will forever remember your kindness. But if it truly proves impossible, just hand us over. Amitabha. A clear, elegant Buddhist chant echoed from below the pavilion. Li Wei's expression shifted slightly. You all tend to your wounds first. I'll be right back. He hurried down the stairs and, at the edge of the bamboo grove outside the pavilion, saw Shencang in her white robes. Her appearance had changed significantly, but her elegant, serene aura remained, making her instantly recognizable. Shencang glanced at him. I checked the golden rice. It's growing well, and you deserve credit for that. But for at least 8 or 9 days, you haven't been tending to it. The blood qi in the fields has become extremely thin. Why? Li Wei produced the Azure Jade Formation talisman and presented it with both hands. Hall Master, please find someone more capable. I can't cultivate this golden rice anymore. Shencang twirled her Buddhist beads, her gaze sharpening. What? Are you threatening me? Do you think that because I practice Buddhism, I'm all compassion and easy to manipulate? I wouldn't dare, Hall Master. I'm simply too severely injured and need time to recover, Li Wei replied. And Shencang said, you're even holding a grudge now. Your audacity knows no bounds. You dared to kill a divine son at headquarters. Do you even realize the gravity of that crime? Li Wei said, Wangshu slaughtered several fellow disciples. No need to repeat it. Your master has already compiled all of Wangshu's crimes and submitted them to the withered flourish Kerong Hall. She took responsibility for you, claiming she had ordered you to eliminate internal threats as part of your mission. After all, Wangshu was a martial mystic cultivator from the Southern Territory, under her command. And Shencang snorted softly, now that the mission is complete, you can go to the Spirit Valley Lingu Hall to claim 400,000 merit points. Ah! Li Wei found Yao Qingshan's actions so brilliant that words failed to describe them. What? Ah! Your master is under immense pressure, and the situation in the Southern Territory is extremely dangerous and complex. She's also taking time to protect you. Remember this debt. And Shencang said. Li Wei quickly suppressed the corners of his mouth, his expression turning worried. Of course, I must repay my master's kindness. But the Vice Palace Master of the Heavenly Principles Tianli Hall won't let this go. By doing this, my master has essentially made a mortal enemy of him. Hall Master, on that day, when I was forced to reveal your name, it didn't help at all. The Heavenly Principles Tianli Hall's patrol guard simply wouldn't listen. A flicker of cold light flashed through in Shencang's eyes. I've already visited the Heavenly Principles Tianli Hall and the withered flourish Kerong Hall. I've delivered the necessary warnings. At headquarters, no great true inheritance disciple will dare target you again. But you must understand that in the cultivation world, true strength is the only thing that matters. Otherwise, you'll face endless hidden dangers and ambushes from the shadows. This applies not just to you, but to everyone, including me and your master. Li Wei replied, I will heed your teachings, Hall Master. Has the Hall Master visited the Spirit Valley Lingu Hall? And Shencang thought of her second disciple and sighed, I've sent him outside headquarters for training. He has exceptional innate talent, but his temperament is lacking. He needs more tempering. Li Wei sighed as well. Do you think I'm protecting him? And Shencang saw through Li Wei's thoughts. Li Wei said, after all, he is your own disciple. He is truly the apple of your eye. And Shencang replied, for him, being exiled from headquarters is a greater humiliation than any punishment. But what about you? Have you been punished? Are you truly blameless? Should I have those two from upstairs brought back to the divine prison? Li Wei quickly forced a smile. Hall Master, your words clearly mean you're going to spare them. That's wonderful. Hall Master, you truly have a bodhisattva's heart. Regardless of Shencang's true intentions, he had to flatter her first. And Shencang said, Tuoba Buchuo and Qishao are both dragon seeds who have seeded their Tao. In just a few years, they could become first-rate experts. Tuoba Buchuo, in particular, is an inheritor whose innate talent rivals that of the divine sons and daughters. The divine sect has always been lenient toward talented individuals. Li Wei, if you can persuade them to join your ranks and guarantee their loyalty, why would I abandon to heaven's chosen? Li Wei knew and Shencang was also interested in the Qi clan behind Qishao and the Tuoba clan behind Tuoba Buchuo. But he couldn't afford to be picky now, he had to agree. He said, since the Hall Master thinks so highly of them, perhaps you could first lend me a small hand. No need to rush. I heard you've reached great completion in the first layer of the sixfold burning, incinerating karma technique. Show me what you've learned. And Shencang was most curious about this, as she knew Li Wei had only begun practicing the martial mystic path 2 years ago. How could anyone master the first layer of the sixfold burning karma technique in just a decade? Blank. End of chapter. Subscribe to the MTL World at Melworld 1 YouTube channel. Novel. The Primordial Law. Volume 4. Xuanhuan Dao Sect Twin Rice Sect. Chapter 55 310 Investiture of the Divine Sun. 55th of Volume 4. Translator. Shadow Knight AK. Editor. Shadow Knight AK. Rumors can be misleading. I haven't even reached the great completion stage, I've only just begun, Li Wei explained with a wry smile. To master a great technique in just a few days would be too shocking. It might even provoke envy and hatred, potentially leading to his death. Beginner, minor completion, great completion. These three realms were worlds apart. At Shencang's silent signal, Li Wei began to demonstrate the technique properly. Her cultivation and insight were extraordinary. The more he tried to deceive her, the more likely he was to fail. Recalling the ancient scriptures he had studied earlier, he pinched his left hand into a mudra, his fingers arranged like a Buddha's. Spiritual qi surged within him, flowing along a specific path toward his left hand. As the spiritual qi reached his palm, then it swirled into a vortex, rotating 3 times. Then, a searing heat ignited in his palm, as if it were burning. Ember Annihilation Finger Technique. Whoosh. With a flick of his finger, a brilliant beam of light shot forth. Boom. The beam pierced through a decorative rock several meters away, leaving a bowl-sized hole. And Xuanhuan nodded slightly. Indeed, you've only reached the first level, beginner. How long have you been cultivating? I haven't started cultivating yet. I plan to finish reading all the scriptures first, then dedicate some time to studying and practicing. Li Wei felt and Xuanhuan's sharp gaze piercing his heart. Lying about this would be impossible to cover up. And Xuanhuan's forehead broke out in black lines. Be serious. How long have you actually been cultivating? About 8 or 9 days ago, I went to the Spirit Valley Lingu Hall with Master and spent half a day reading. But I got busy cultivating my psychic power and put it off. I haven't had time to delve deeper into it yet. Li Wei spoke earnestly. Before that, I had no access to the sixfold burning karma technique. And Xuanhuan stared intently at him, recalling their first meeting 2 years ago and the drastic changes in him today. Back then, he was nothing more than a well-meaning young man, still in the surging spring realm at 20, with little chance of achieving anything significant in his lifetime. Now, he exuded an extraordinary aura of masculine charm that captivated women. His intellect, martial mystic path, and psychic, spiritual power had all caught up to the top talents of his age. He could stand calmly before a great immortal who had cultivated for centuries and hold his own. Such a cultivation speed was simply inconceivable. Could it be that his comprehension was even more exceptional? And Xuanhuan silently processed her surprise, while also feeling puzzled. Shu Tingsheng had clearly stated that Li Wei had already achieved the first layer of the sixfold burning karma technique to great completion. Why was he only at the beginner level now? Seeing and Xuanhuan remain silent for so long, Li Wei feared that his greatest patron within the Twin Rice sect might be harboring suspicions. He quickly explained, they must have misunderstood. The reason they think I've already cultivated the first layer of the sixfold burning karma technique to great completion is likely because of integrated psychic power and the golden crow flame into the Dao technique. A look of bewilderment flashed across in Xuanhuan's eyes. What? You can integrate psychic power into the sixfold burning karma technique? Li Wei replied in an exploratory tone, that's how I understand it. The sixfold burning karma technique is a legacy of the Bhagavata sect. From what I've learned, Buddhist cultivators cultivate both internally and externally, prioritizing the mind before the body. They would undoubtedly place great importance on mental power. So, how could they possibly have overlooked researching a Dao technique that unifies the martial mystic path and mental, spiritual or psychic power? And Xuanhuan pondered for a moment before saying, show it to me. Li Wei complied, releasing the Fusong divine tree light shadow. He then executed the Ember Annihilation Finger technique, the first layer technique of the sixfold burning karma technique. With a single finger strike, he instantly fused psychic power, spiritual chi, and the golden crow flame into one. The concentrated power erupted outward. Waves of scorching heat surged in all directions. Whoosh. Boom. The decorative mountain rock, standing 3 to 4 meters tall, collided with the finger force, erupting in a cloud of fire before shattering. Fragments of stone rained down, some showing signs of melting. The world seemed to freeze. And Xuanhuan's expression froze in that moment, as if the dark clouds that had long shrouded her mind had been scattered by that single finger. A sense of sudden clarity washed over her. She, too, cultivated psychic power. But it was only because her progress in the martial mystic path had become slow and tedious, and she sought an alternative way to perceive the Tao. She hadn't devoted herself to rigorous cultivation. Even so, after 2 or 3 centuries of accumulation, her psychic power had reached the initial stage of a holy spiritual master. Compared to the martial mystic path, it was almost negligible. If I could advance the 6th layer of the sixfold burning karma technique to the 7th, perhaps I could break through the barrier to transcendence in one fell swoop. Lost in her inner world, and Xuanhuan immediately tried, forming a pinching gesture and converging spiritual chi and psychic power in her palm. But it ended in failure. The spiritual chi instantly overwhelmed her psychic power. On her second attempt, she channeled equal amounts of spiritual chi and psychic power, but the two forces clashed violently. For her third try, she followed Li Wei's method, making her psychic power slightly stronger than her spiritual chi. The result? She couldn't even execute the Ember Annihilation Finger technique. Li Wei stood quietly to the side, his mind filled with questions. Across from him, and Xuanhuan remained motionless, her left hand raised slightly at her waist. She repeatedly formed finger seals, but never actually unleashed the technique. Could it be that the destructive power was too great? And Xuanhuan noticed his gaze and stopped. As a senior cultivator, she naturally wouldn't ask for advice. Steadying herself, she asked calmly, how did you think to combine psychic power and the sixfold burning karma technique? Li Wei replied, Senior N, I already told you earlier. I know. What I mean is, you haven't even cultivated it. Why were you able to combine the two forces? And Xuanhuan pressed. Li Wei understood her meaning. The first time I used this finger technique, I felt my entire body's psychic power being drawn in. So, the second time, I tried merging them, and it actually worked. Senior An, you've cultivated the sixfold burning karma technique for 300 years. Haven't you ever tried this? And Shanjing had already experimented with various methods, but she'd never experienced the phenomenon Li Wei described. Whoosh. She flashed to Li Wei's side, one hand landing on his shoulder. Show me again. Li Wei secretly scoffed. He had assumed Shanjing hadn't used the sixfold burning karma technique in the southern purity Nanqing palace because her cultivation was too high. Now it seemed she had been trying to form the hand seals earlier but had failed to concentrate her energy. After centuries of cultivation, she still couldn't even merge spiritual qi and psychic power. At Shanjing's command, Li Wei performed the Ember Annihilation finger technique over a dozen times in succession. Afterward, she practiced alone, but several hours passed without any apparent progress. Elder Shu came to the southern purity Nanqing palace to report, bowing respectfully from a distance, afraid to meet her gaze. Hall Master, you mentioned returning to the surface today. Someone from the Heaven Valley Tianjia Hall has asked when you plan to depart. Tell the Heaven Valley Tianjia Hall that I'm delayed by an important matter. For the Eastern Territory, have them seek out senior brother at Guanshan. He can handle things temporarily, and Shanjing instructed. Elder Shu cautiously inquired, how long will the delay be, Hall Master? It would be helpful to inform them. I don't know. Just go for now. For Shanjing, the pursuit of a transcendent realm surpassed all else. Elder Shu dared not press further. After 360 years of cultivation, the gap between them was like that between a mortal and an immortal. Li Wei escorted Elder Shu to the southern purity Nanqing palace's entrance, clasped his hands in a gesture of gratitude, and said with a smile, thank you for your assistance that day, Elder Shu. We're all family here, no need to be formal. Elder Shu lowered his voice and transmitted his thoughts, what's wrong with the Hall Master? She seems to have suddenly gained enlightenment and entered a critical stage of cultivation, Li Wei replied. Elder Shu was visibly moved, then ecstatic, the Hall Master must have comprehended that realm. Otherwise, she would never have abandoned her duties during this tumultuous period. Divine Son, I'm entrusting the southern purity Nanqing palace to you. Take good care of the Hall Master. Just send word if you need anything. Li Wei felt a headache coming on. Shanjing's constant presence in the southern purity Nanqing palace was like a ticking time bomb. If she discovered Tang Wanzhou would undoubtedly meet a gruesome end. And he, Li Wei, wouldn't fare much better. Most people just keep a mistress hidden away. He, on the other hand, was hiding the young lord in a golden palace, and borrowing Yao Qingshan's golden palace at that. Audacious, didn't even begin to describe it. Suddenly snapping out of his chaotic thoughts, Li Wei asked, what did Elder Shu just call me? Elder Shu smiled warmly, hasn't the Hall Master told you yet? After you killed the fourth divine son, the heavenly principals Tianli Hall and the withered flourish Kerong Hall were furious, claiming it was a severe loss for the divine sect. To compensate, you've now been appointed the fourth divine son. Li Wei's head began to ache. Such a monumental matter as appointing a divine son was decided with just a few words. When the Hall Masters gather, wouldn't they just make the decision directly? Elder Shu continued, Divine Son, you must be cautious when you leave the southern purity Nanqing palace. As the fourth divine son, Sikong Jingyuan and Sikong Yanlin, who rank fifth, can challenge you at any time. They wouldn't dare kill you outright, of course, but if you lose, they're allowed to take your treasures, that's within the divine sect's rules. Li Wei said, making me the fourth divine son is just a way to set me up, isn't it? Inside the southern purity Nanqing palace, Shanjing's voice echoed, Li Wei, come see me. Divine Son is truly the Hall Master's most cherished favorite. We ordinary disciples would never have the chance to meet her. Even a little guidance from the Hall Master would benefit us for a lifetime. Elder Shu's face showed envy as he took his leave. Li Wei turned and returned to the palace. Shanjing sat beside a field of golden rice, watching Li Wei enter the formation's light curtain. When I cultivated the first and second layers of the sixfold burning karma technique, I absorbed a great amount of ember spirit fire to achieve mastery. How did you cultivate the golden crow flame in your psychic power? She was pondering the differences between herself and Li Wei, searching for the root cause. Li Wei said, the light of the sun is none other than the golden crow flame. Then how did you cultivate the Fusong divine tree light shadow? Shanjing asked. This is a meditation technique I created myself. I imagine myself as the Fusong divine tree, absorbing the brilliance of the sun, Li Wei replied, his words half truth, half lie. A self-created meditation technique. Shanjing found this hard to believe, yet she had never heard of anyone else cultivating the Fusong divine tree light shadow. She certainly couldn't. Changing her meditation technique now would be disastrous. Her expression turned grave as she fell into deep thought. Li Wei cautiously said, Hall Master, there's no need for you to follow my path. What are you talking about? When did I say I would follow your path? Whether your path is even viable remains to be seen, and Shanjing retorted, her dignity and authority evident. In her eyes, Li Wei was still just a young boy. Even Li Wei could hear the insincerity in her voice. He feared she would continue studying him, now that she had noticed the golden crow flame and the Fusong divine tree. In a few days, she might demand a full-body examination or notice the Tao ancestors' Tai Chi fish and the yellow dragon sword. So he said, Hall Master, you've practiced Buddhism for many years. Do you understand the true meaning of the 6 similitudes? And Shanjing snapped out of her reverie and looked at him. 6 similitudes, wasn't that the name of this great technique? Li Wei, of course, didn't know the true meaning of the 6 similitudes, but he did know the familiar Buddhist saying, all conditioned phenomena are like dreams, illusions, bubbles, shadows, dew, and lightning. One should view them thus. Therefore, the 6 similitudes referred to dreams, illusions, bubbles, shadows, dew, and lightning. Hall Master, haven't you heard this famous Buddhist saying? The Buddhist scriptures unearthed from the underground immortal mansion are vast as a sea of smoke. How could I have read them all? Where did you learn this? And Shanjing asked. Li Wei replied, from a wandering monk I met. And Shanjing suddenly seemed to remember something, muttering to herself, view them thus. View them thus. I think I've seen this somewhere before. Whoosh. Her movements transformed into a mist of light, and she vanished. Moments later, she returned, cradling a heavy jade slip book in her arms. And Shanjing sat back on the field ridge and began to study it carefully. At the very beginning of the book were the 3 ancient characters, view them thus. Blank. End of chapter. Subscribe to the MTL World at Malworld 1 YouTube channel.